Coming up on the Mississippi Minuteman, we take a look at the National Guard's role following April tornadoes in Louisville and Tupelo. Magnolia Soldiers and Airmen lead the Southeast in a 2-week special ops training exercise with international allies. The 186th Air Refueling Wing becomes the first National Guard unit to receive a top-of-the-line flight simulator. And veterans stop in Jackson to visit the Trail of Honor during their annual Run for the Wall to Washington, D.C. All this and more next. Hi, I'm Army Sergeant Sarah Stewart. Severe storms and tornadoes ripped across the state in late April, leaving hundreds of homes and businesses damaged and several people dead. Louisville and Tupelo took a big hit from tornadoes. A state of emergency was declared in 7 counties. Over 100 soldiers and airmen across the state were called to active duty to aid with the disaster relief. The majority were from the 155th Armored Brigade Combat Team and Alpha Troop, 1st Squadron, 98th Cavalry Regiment. Soldiers assisted local agencies with search and rescue missions, traffic and presence patrols, and security.
Yeah, anytime there's a natural disaster, you know, we don't want to have to be a part of that, but that's what we signed up for, being the Guards, what we do. We're just glad to be here and do our part for the community.
Airmen from the 238th Air Support Operations Squadron provided aerial video to authorities to help assess the damage. Also, soldiers of the 1st Battalion, 185th Aviation Regiment responded to provide medevac support if needed. Meanwhile, the Mississippi National Guard hosted a 2-week training exercise in late April with Allied forces. Air Force Tech Sergeant Ed Staten begins our team coverage.
It was a fast-paced, adrenaline-pumped mission for soldiers and airmen that took part in SOCOM's largest annual exercise, Emerald Warrior. The uniqueness of this year's exercise was its hosting of the Israeli Defense Force at the Combat Readiness Training Center in Gulfport. More than 400 soldiers, airmen, and Marines gathered to perform joint special operations across the South.
You won't be able to find another exercise as meaningful as this one is to the training of our soldiers and our airmen.
The training included parachute infiltration, Special Forces helocast, air refueling with Israeli C-130s, and much more. The Magnolia Task Force ensured Special Operation Forces were prepared for future success on the battlefield.
And I don't think you can find a better example than we have right now of a task force of all the rotor and fixed wing together supporting an international ally in a special operations exercise.
The exercise was a testament to what servicemen from nearly every branch of the U.S. military can achieve when working as one fighting force. Reporting for the Mississippi Minuteman, I'm Air Force Technical Sergeant Ed Staten.
In other news, soldiers fight their way to the top during the 2014 Oil Can Olympics. Army Sergeant Carmen Yepes chronicles this year's event.
Soldiers are fired up to earn their place at the top of this year's Oil Can Olympics. The friendly competition tested skills between companies in the 298th Combat Support Battalion out of Philadelphia.
It's good soldier skill stuff, but it's also good for morale and competition within the battalion, within the companies.
Soldiers competed in 5 events at Camp McCain.
3. Get it.
Their speed and accuracy was graded during a grenade throw exercise. Their time evaluated during a disassembly and reassembly of the M249 machine gun. Their map reading capabilities were examined, as well as their ability to spot and correctly report mechanical faults on a vehicle. But it all came down to the culminating event that decided which company would finish victorious. Soldiers pushed their Humvee 20 yards, used a jack to replace a tire, and then pushed it back to the finish line. The success of the soldiers' teamwork made this a memorable event for their annual training. The company who will hold this year's bragging rights as the winner of the Oil Can Olympics is the 367th Maintenance Company.
Thanks, sir. Good job. Thanks.
Reporting for the Mississippi Minuteman, I'm Army Staff Sergeant Carmen Yepes.
Boom pod operators will now have more chances to perfect their skills thanks to a new flight simulator at Meridian's 186th Air Refueling Wing. The new equipment will double the Air Guard's training capability while cutting annual costs. Sergeant Tim Morgan has the story.
The 186th Air Refueling Wing became the first unit in the National Guard to receive a new flight simulator for the KC-135.
The amount of functions that you can get in a simulator that you can't get in a real airplane, you can practice it in here.
The Boom Operator Simulator System will allow airmen to practice mid-air refueling without the hundreds of thousands in annual costs it takes to put a plane in the air.
And you can just imagine the cost savings from that. You know, the fuel that'll be saved, the man hours, the maintenance, the wear and tear on airplanes, all of that is the future of the Air Force.
The Key Field Air Base in Meridian became the birthplace of air refueling after the historic flight by the Key brothers in 1935. Once again, the base will lead the world in maintaining air strength capability. Reporting for the Mississippi Minuteman, I'm Army Sergeant Tim Morgan.
Fishermen assemble at the Ross Barnett Reservoir for the Mississippi National Guard's annual Pick-a-Partner Bass Tournament. The event raises money for the Blairy Batson Children's Hospital in Jackson. 61 boats and 119 fishermen participated. Mississippi Guardsmen and other volunteers supported the event that raised $3,200 for the hospital. Anglers received cash awards and door prizes after all fish were weighed and released. Spectators welcome Run for the Wall riders passing through Jackson at the Trail of Honor in April. Army Sergeant Michael Needham has the story.
Years ago, the Trail of Honor was once just a pit stop that welcomed Run for the Wall riders on their way to D.C. But today it has evolved into a 3-day event featuring living history of every American war. From the French and Indian War to the wars in Afghanistan, over 30,000 visitors passed through to honor veterans. Rumbling engines could be heard for miles as the Run for the Wall riders were welcomed with a standing ovation by supporters.
My first time, probably one of the most awesome experiences you'll ever have. You can't explain it unless you do it.
Inside, the riders got to witness a special ceremony that honored the VIP veterans. Among those veterans were Navajo code talkers, ex-prisoner of war Glenn Frazier, and Medal of Honor recipient Thomas Norris. After the ceremony, visitors took a walk through history as they made their way through the Trail of Honor. Many said it was an enlightening moment that gave insight into what our servicemen and women endured while fighting for freedom. Reporting for the Mississippi Minuteman, I'm Army Sergeant Michael Needham.
Mississippi Army National Guard units receive awards for their outstanding service in the global war on terrorism. Specialist Jovi Prevost tells us more.
Mississippi Army National Guard engineers gathered at Camp Shelby, Mississippi to be presented awards for service in the global war on terrorism. Recently home from Afghanistan, the soldiers of the 857th Engineer Company received the Meritorious Unit Citation for service in Afghanistan from July 2012 to May 2013. Members of Company C, 890th Engineer Company, received the VALOROUS Unit Citation for service in Iraq from April to September 2013. A unit citation can mean a lot to a soldier.
It just makes you proud to look at them in the face and know what we've achieved as a unit as a whole.
Some soldiers feel the award is just a reward for their hard work.
To me, it means that it validates what we've done and the accomplished missions we had in Afghanistan.
Reporting for the Mississippi Minutemen, I'm Specialist Jovi Prevost.
In other news, Mississippi National Guardsmen traveled to Camp Shelby for Retiree Day. Laughter could be heard as retirees reconnected with friends and colleagues from the past. Participants also brought their families for a day of festivities that included military aircraft and vehicle displays. Earlier that morning, respects were paid to the fallen during a wreath-laying ceremony open for the public.
Now, we in this country should never forget the loss of life that laid down on the battlefield.
That's all for this edition of the Mississippi Minuteman. For more news, follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for joining us.